Nathan Chloe, the difference between the first cycle of when they had top of Legani, there's the second cycle of Bosi Legani, and the difference between Chloe is that, at least what seems pretty obvious, that the first cycle of Bosi Legani, they'll be going more practice teaching the actual pratim, and getting very involved in the pratim. The Maamer also explaining it how that's if is mashlim the whole hemshech of Bosi Legani. The second cycle of Bosi Legani is more taking that sif and taking it to the next level, asking a question most of the time, and getting into that. And the case of the same as Yona is more getting into that. So this year, Baruch Hashem, there's only one Bosi Legani that's recorded. So it's only one that you know that what the Rebbe actually said. It is a B'cholas, the Maamer of Tavshach Dav, the Maamer of Tavshach Dav. There's the part of the Maamer which were Mesakim, the Hemshech, up until Paket Gimel, where Paket Gimel speaks about the fact that Aaron said, until what type of mata does it reach? And afterwards, in the Maamer, which that goes through the Teves of the Alter Rebbe, the Baal Shem Tov, the Magid, and the Mitzvah Rebbe in the Maamer, it's speaking, it says the Mitzias, that in this mata you have Ein Sof in there. Then it gets more into the Tev of Tzemach Tzedek and the Rebbe Marash and the Rebbe Shmos Yed, and it gets into how exactly does that work, and that it's it's not a spell, it's not mishtana. How exactly does this work? This idea of that Ein Sof finds itself in mata, and then it finishes off the Maamer and it explains how you take the hemshech from there. So that's Beifin Klali, the general mahalach of the Maamer. I'll skip more or less. So up until now in the Maamer we had the Aveda of the Yidden, that we have the to be Mahapeth from Kadesh, from the Shekel, which should be Kadesh for Kadesh and Mishkan. So that's been the Aveda of the Hapcha, the Skafia. How do we do that? That is through that's the mini Hemshech that we're in right now, is through the Eitzer, which is given to the Pkidei Achal, through them to Anshe Achal, that should actually be able to win the war, bring Mashiach, make a different Tartenu. And we're explaining what exactly is this Eitzer. To explain this, we bring that this Maamer Chazal of Ein Sof, the Maamer Tikkunei Azayah of Ein Sof of Maamer Adin Katz, Mata Adin Tachlis. So, which Ein Sof of Maamer Adin Katz, both of these in Yonim are which even though it's Ein Sof, but it's still the idea of it's which it's a Gilui, which is an Eifin of Ein Sof, which that is both the Mata and the Maamer Adin Katz. Mata Adin Tachlis, which the actual Eitz is even higher than that, which that's the idea of Nili Bashamayim, the whole Siyam Maamer over there. That's the whole Siyam Maamer is exactly what is the idea of the actual Eitzer. Then we get, now in Sifya Daled, we explain. So Sifya Gimel explained to what extent does mata reach? It reaches even such a person that even a pesheah, and what's the type of pesheah, takes the keach Torah and he uses the opposite of what Torah is really meant to be about, and that's the lowest level, which is shayach of a mata. That's the lowest level. And even in this thing, there's Ein Sof. In this, and the Sifya Daled, the Fidik starts off that still Va'ata Mechayas Kulam Ksiv, which Va'ata, Sternberg focuses the first detail, which is the first detail of Teves Adam Azakin, the Alter of his Teda. That's the first detail. That Va'ata, when we say Va'ata over here, it's referring to, Va'ata is obviously referring to Atzmos, it's able believing to be Yudesa, but what is Atzmos, the way it is, comes down to it's Shtatzach Ein in Asius, which that's the Teda of the first Teda of the Alter Rebbe, that the Va'ata's idea of the Asius from Aleph and Tav, which is Machai Mahava, it's the Aleph and Tav and the Hemid says that. But that's the Atzmos going through that. Then continue on in Perek Daled that the artist Liki, what's Pshat Va'ata Mechayas Kulam, that the artist Liki is Nimshach Lahavis Lahachis, he's calling the Dom Behind Yesh. It's Sai Mahava and Mechayah. So now we bring the second Teda of the Alter Rebbe, that I'll take him Mechayah al Mahava, which that means that through that which we know that's Mechayah, we see that Eibishter takes care that everything has exactly the Midas Achaim, everything that grows has exactly what it needs, everything that is in this world, Eibishter gives exactly what it needs. Through that, you're able to come and realize that there's a Mahava, that the Eibishter is the one creating all of this, which that is the limud of Altiki Mahava al-Machaya, that the Altiki Machaya al-Mahava, the Machaya is the one that's more obvious. That's the thing that says clearly in Bosi. And the idea of Mahava is through the limud of Altiki, that it's more Behelim, and you see from that there's a concept of the Mahava. And since these both are in the same pasuk, that's why when we bring the pasuk of Atam Mechayas Kulam, the idea that Eibush is Mechaya everything, so we say in the Maamer, that's Sai Mahava and Mechaya, both of these ideas. We continue in the Maamer in Perek Daled that this Erev Chayes is Nimshach in all of the Nivra. It says in the Maamer, like it says in the Maamer Chazal, the Zam Mefanis, Kanin Eimam at Beis Kinim, the Erev Chayes is Nimshach from the highest. Is Mechaya, Mahava, the highest levels and the lowest levels. Like we bring the Shem Kabbalah, even though what we see in the Maamer over here is pretty much word for word from Tzedek, which Yeshla'ayin, why we're not saying it's from Tzedek. This is a clear take from Tzedek with the few Yeshleimas. It's clearly the Tzedek. We say it's Shem, the Rebbe uses the Lashon of Kabbalah. It says in Kabbalah that Karne, the Amen is the idea of Keser. It's the Svidus of Keser. Karne is the Svidus of Keser. Basically, is including the idea of Klippus, which that's the idea of Kinim is the idea of Kovchav. Tziduf is Kinim, first of all, is Matri Kovchav. Like it says in Pietz Chaim that Kovchav is the idea of Kovchav Tzidufim of Shem Elikim, which Shem Elikim is master on the Erev Chayes, which that's the idea of which over here comes in the Teda of the Magid, which in our Teda it's clearer than the Magid of the Yaakov and our Teda of the Magid himself. In our Teda it says this concept a lot more clearer. That the idea of Negat Shema Avad Shemei, that's in order to bring the concept of Hashem, that Halach, Mahalach Tavkov Shana, Liknis Hashem, that in order that it should go to the next level, that it's in order it's through being Ma'abed Hashem, through destroying Kilu, the name, and you're left with the Kina, that's how you get to the idea of Hashem. Which based on that, we know that this, when we say Mekane Name and Kinim, it includes also the idea of Klippus, which B'doch means it includes that also. So even lower than that, which we mentioned earlier in the previous paddock, that even somebody who does the opposite of what Abisha wants, and for Kat, he even takes Teda, he takes Teda and he brings that to the lowest level. So that's the Teda of the Mitzvah Rebbe about the message that the same way, which the Teda of the Mitzvah Rebbe, the same way it's by Shemayim, the Shamata by Shemayim, the same thing is also Lamata in She'el is the same thing, and more specifically in the Mitzvah Rebbe's Teda, that the idea, that the two ideas of Sidus, both of these Inyanim come from Sidus. The idea of Shemayim comes from Shidus, that's through Tzimtzumim. After through Tzimtzumim, you're able to get the idea of Shemayim. And She'el also comes through Shidus, but it's a Yinika. Hagof, even there we see that there's the idea of Ernest Seif, because Davkin, it says, that Davkin She'el, you're able to deher elikus. That from She'el, you're able to deher elikus. And even more so, it says Meided She'el Vayal, that if you erech the Meided She'el, you get to that such a Vayal that through however low he goes, so he's able to go even higher. Like it says, Mutal the Idaine Mesil Al Dasi, which based on that we see that includes even the Peshev Tachlis, which he takes the idea of Teda, of the ideas of Teda, and he uses the opposite, Paskin Hepech of Teda. So that's the first section of explaining Perek Yudalad. The idea of Pashat saying the Metzias of where we have this idea, where we see Earn Seif, which type of mathemata we see the Earn Seif. We then move on and explain that when Earn Seif goes mathemata, it's an eifin of without Shiur and Espilus, which the idea of Shiur and Espilus, there's two pratim. When we say that there's no Shiur and Espilus, there's two pratim in this. The first prat, that mitzad, that's when the same way on Shama, when it goes into a gof, it's mispal, that's when it's dealing with something lower, it gets affected, it's affecting itself to do something, to be magbo itself to something lower. And also that the way it comes, the second detail that when we said that deletion of the spiral is that when it comes down in a way that it is, even when it's down there, it's in a way of deletion of the spirals. It doesn't have any shinur or spirals. That's where the Teda of, that's where the Teda of the Tzemach Tzedek comes in. That in Kinem Datzilos, that the whole concept of Shini and Espailos, it only starts by Kinem Yah, Mashikin and Kinem Datzilos, because they're Mon and Deli, they're the Eibishter's Kinem, Mon and Deli, so therefore they're not shaykh to this whole concept of Shini and Espailos. And like, it's not an idea of Shini and Espailos, rather in what way is it dealing with, what is the gvul that we see over here? It's magbil, something outside of itself. Just like you have the Keach Ksiva, he's able to, by a personal matter, he has a Keach Ksiva. The Keach Ksiva, he's able to write gvul aces. He's writing down on the paper, he's writing down only one ace. Which that's not the idea that he is being magdal himself. It's just that his keach is something that he's being magdal for something else. Which similar idea of the difference between Kinem Datzilos and Kinem Dibiyah, we see in the Galapel that Yosef, when he was in Mitzrayim, he dealt with Mitzrayim, he was dealing with Komini and Yonim, of dealing with running the country. The Shvatim, they were ready saying, "Hey, Abdecha," they're not shaykh to him, Haza. And Fakir, they looked at Yosef and like, what's going on over here? How's the shaykh? that you're still able to be from and dealing with the world as you're still able to be dealing with you're still able to remember about the Eibishter and still be dealing with the world. Which that's like the difference between Biyah and Atzilus. That Yosef, since the way he was down here, it was shaykh to the idea that he was shaykh to Atzilus, shaykh to Kalim Atzilus. That's why he was able to deal with even things Lamata and it wasn't able to affect him. That didn't affect him, the fact that he was dealing with Lamata. Then we move on to the Teda of the Rebbe Manash. She brings on the dogma, the lashon of Gali v'Yadua. That's what's the idea of Gali v'Yadua. That Eibishter knows everything that's going on in the world. How does that not affect the Eibishter? And the Eibishter is taking care of everything specifically. All the is nimnim echad mimarim. How's it shaykh? The word is Gali v'Yadua, but there's the mela that it's not affecting him because it's the mela is not affecting him. Still, the Rebbe Marash asks, how is it shaykh? It should be a shinoi in the Eida of the mile of Mendel. That such a thing is only shaykh like Teves and Nefesh. When you say Teves and Nefesh, so you have something else which that's being magbalim. But over here, this is Atzilus Kelim, Atzilus itself, or being magbalim something that's mechutz mimani. It's because it's the idea of Kal Yachim. Through this, the Rebbe Marash also explains that the idea of Beidira, that the Eibishter, that Kelim Atzilus, from that comes the Agbola until the idea of Ra, but still it's not even affecting him, the fact that he's dealing with the world and Ra. The same thing we see by the Baal Shem Tov, the Rebbe Marash the same thing we see by the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov was able to answer a person's question, the Seif Yamav, while he was on a higher plane. While he was standing in Atzilus, and he was able to answer somebody's question with pratis. Exactly what he needed in Elam Haza. That's the same idea of Gali v'Yadua, that he was able to. It was not involved him from his Aveda through the idea that he was dealing with the world. That's based on that we understand that mitzad the Eibishter, when the Eibishter is dealing with the world, when we have Erin Seif is dealing with the world, when Erin Seif goes to Mata, the Erin Seif, the fact that it's going to Mata is not affecting the Erin Seif. Now, the Rebbe Shabbos comes to explain that even when it comes to Mata, when it goes through the Kleis Focus and it changes the color, it looks like it changed color, still it stays exactly the same, it doesn't lose any behiros. Which that's dafka mitzad the fact that it's Erin Seif, and that's where the Rebbe Rashab comes into play. The Rebbe Rashab says the difference between Erin and Kayach. Even the highest Kayach of a person of Matuv, that's his Kayach of Chachma, still we see clearly that it's Molei Shinoyim. Vardaya, he was able to understand he was able to understand the premise of the Seichel before the Kitzenius of the Seichel. So Muslim Zagin that he's Muslim Zagin that that it's the issue over here is that the Keach Seichel the issue is that the Seichel has the Keach Seichel has Abatzim Shaykh Shinoy. Which is different than even Gashmistic lights. So there's different type of lights. That's because that's based off the different type of Maamer that it comes from. Whether it's a big Maamer or a smaller Maamer, even the Gashmis. The way it comes down is pretty much the same thing the way it was by its marker. Still, we see the difference of we see the difference that when it comes to Mata, it's not exactly the same way that it's Ba here. It's not clear the same way the way it was up there. And it comes down a little bit different. Shenkin Aaron say when it's the Mata, it's exactly the same way. There's no Shinoi. It's not Mishtana, it's not Mis'arib, the way it is the Mata when it comes down. One thing that I forgot to mention in Teves Baal Shem Tov comes behemshech to V'atam Chayes Kulam is Kelo, not just Kula. It's not just Stubik Kula. It means Kula. It means everything literally, which that we see from the Teves Baal Shem Tov, that everything is constantly being created by the Eses Aleph through Taf, which are Nitzav V'Imdim constantly, which, even though the Rebbe doesn't bring the Hemshech of Tanya, that if it would be Mistalik Lodega, then everything would disappear, everything would cease to exist. It's clear that that's what the Rebbe means, that we see how everything is totally so much in the Eibishter's the Eibishter, that the Eibishter needs to constantly be creating, that we see that everything Eibazay must be Taka, that everything needs to be constantly created and Mechaya by the Eibishter.